takeoff on a woolly bugger, Blair's Foolproof bugger, and it uses this material called Estatz. This comes in all kinds of colors. It comes in purple. If you have a purple Marabou for the tail, it makes a really dramatic looking fly. It almost looks like it ought not to work. It's just a little bit too showy, but as I mentioned, I have caught trout at both Roaring River and at Rockbridge on this fly. It would not be my first choice, but if they're picky or you're catching them on everything and you just want to try something else, this fly will work. You work it just like you would a woolly bugger. It's weighted, so it's going to be a streamer. You kind of tweak it and make it look like it's darting in the water, and then hang on. The Marabou is peach, and this is woolly bugger Marabou. They make a couple different kinds of Marabou. Some they call blood quill. I prefer the woolly bugger Marabou because it's a lot fluffier. I just prefer that. But the pattern, I think, is really pretty. In the book, the pattern does not call for any hackle. And I'll send this one around. This is the one with no hackle. I've kind of played with, I like hackle in it. I put white hackle on this one like I would a woolly bugger. And you can take a look at that one. I think that really adds something to the pattern. And then this last week, I left some space behind the eye of the hook, and I put my hackle at the very, very front, 2 or 3 wraps of hackle just at the front. And of all those, I think, I know, it's just personal preference. I think I like this one the best. So if you want to tie one without hackle, fine. If you want to try hackle, be my guest. If you are not here for the woolly bugger when we use that hackle, I'll tie one of both. I'll tie one plain, and then I'll tie one with the hackle. Okay? All right, let's get started. This uses... Pardon me? Yeah.
Record button.
This uses a size 10, 3XL, kind of a nymph hook. It's not a dry fly. It's a heavier metal hook. This fly is designed to sink. The first thing you're going to have to do is put a bead on. You can see these pliers. These are bead pliers. They really work nice on larger beads like we're going to be using today. On very small beads, the concave part of each side is so deep that on small beads they're worthless. But on an 1/8 inch bead, these work great. And if you remember, the side of the bead, there are 2 sizes of openings on most of these beads. I'm using some beads I brought from home, and they decidedly have a large and a small opening. And if you're putting a bead on your hook, you want the small opening to go on first. So I've got my
I'm going to get my hook in my vise and get it ready to go. Okay. And I think I'm going to zoom that in just a little bit more. Okay. I like to use a little bit of lead. The bead I'm using is a tungsten bead. The ones that we had for class use are not tungsten. They aren't nearly as heavy. And because of that, you're probably going to want to put a little lead on to give it a little bit more weight. I'm going to put a little bit of lead on because I want that bead not to slide around. So I'm going to put the lead on. I'm going to do it behind the hook like normal. And then I'm just going to make, this is like 1/1500ths lead. It's pretty small. So I'm going to make 10 or 12 wraps of lead, break that off. And then I'm going to slide that lead forward so it keeps that bead in place. it's not going to bounce around and twist on me. I'm going to get rid of that tag end. Okay. And I mentioned, because the materials in this fly are such a light color, I don't think you'd want to use black or red or something on it. It would really stand out a lot. So I'm using white thread. Going to put my thread on back at the bin like I normally do. And then I'm going to lay a little thread base. Going to go up to the lead, try to get into it. I'm going to go back. Now I know it's locked in place. It's not going to go anywhere. And I'm going to let my bobbin hang right about where the barb would be on the hook and get rid of my tag end. This peach marabou, if you buy a package of this, there will be several of these little marabous in a package that will not be useful. They will just not have the fluff that you need. I get rid of a lot of it down toward the end because it's not going to be long enough to stretch into the tail. And then I'm just going to kind of pull this back until I have about the length of the hook shank. It could be a little bit longer, but you don't want the tail like this. That is like 2 hook lengths. You want about from the eye to the bend, you want that length as your measurement for how much of that, how much marabou we have hanging behind. That's a little bit longer, but it's not long enough that it's going to cause a problem. I'm going to cinch that marabou down until it comes about to where my lead is, and then I'm going to cut that off. And I'm going to make sure I've got that. If you hang on to it, it will not twist on you. It has a tendency to want to twist. Okay, so something's going on with my bobbin. No, I guess it's okay. Now, the next thing we're going to put on is the FLASHABOU. So I'm going to take, I got some of my FLASHABOU is much longer than what you don't normally buy now. So mine's long enough I can cut that in half and I can get 2 flies out of that. And I'm going to take these 2 strands, going to fold them in half. Now I've got a double strand here, and I'm going to have to attach that to my hook. I think for beginners it's maybe easier to just lay that up against the side facing you and attach it, and then grab it, bring it over and attach it to the other side. Then you can grab all 4 ends and you're going to trim that about the length of your marabou. Okay? We're going to go through this all again, guys. This is just for your first timers, just look at this one. You're going to get behind because I'm just trying to give you a feel for what this thing is going to end up looking like. Okay. Now, I'm going to take 1 strand of this wool yarn, and this will maybe do, you could probably use real small brain dead, real small, what am I thinking about? We got it back there, it's chenille, or no, little fuzzy stuff, but I just went brain dead. Happens about 10 times a day. Comes in the stuff we have on the big spools back there. Yeah. Chenille. Yeah. Okay. I'm sorry. Okay. Okay. Now, then I'm going to take some Estatz, and I'm going to try and take the ends of that off so I have just some of that thread left. And I'm going to attach that about the same place. Okay. And since I'm not putting in a hackle, I've got everything attached that I'm going to be using, and I'm going to get rid of my bobbin. Now the first thing we got to do, the thing that I think John figured out, that is if you have an underbody of this red and you're not wrapping your Estatz real tight, some of that red, you can see it, and I think fish like red. I don't know, it looks like a bleeding gill or something, but I'm going to just lay a thread base. I want to make sure I have right next to each other, I want a nice solid thread base all the way up to the eye, a little bit behind the eye. Okay, I've got that thread base laid up to the eye. So I'm gonna tie that off, just like you guys.
Broke. We're all broke.
Oh, he's talking.
Okay.
All right.
So I've got my thread base, and I'm going to take my Estatz, and if you want that red bottom layer to show through, if you wrap this, I'll show you. If you wrap this really tight, like you would normal chenille, it's going to cover it up. You can't see the red coming through. So you want your wraps a little bit looser.
Separated.
Yeah, I'm going to separate them, maybe 1/16 of an inch or more. You should be able to see some of that red.
Through it.
Yeah, and I am double screwed now. I guess when I dropped that thing, I must have broken this bobbin.
She's gonna use that next.
Okay. Okay, and then I'm going to carefully nip that off and cut my thread. Now I'm going to make sure I got that attached with a couple of extra wraps here to make sure that it's not going to all come undone the first time I throw it. Get rid of that tag in, and I'm going to whip finish it. No, it's not working. It's still broken. I can't believe I broke this. Got 4 whip finishes on it, and I'm going to nip that off. And that is the pattern that's in the book that does not call for any hackle. Yeah.
Camera friendly. There you go.
All right. Yeah, I don't know if you can see it through this. I'm going to zoom that in a little bit more. But you should be able to see the red in between the wraps.
In the water, that shows up good. Huh?
Yeah.
And a bobbin hits the ground.
Yeah. But that is a Blair's Foolproof.